Okay, David Byrne, thank you very much for participating. One thing, my questions and me as an interviewer, I will not be heard in the
Okay,
tape.
so I should try and incorporate the
Incorporate and elaborate and speak freely as you wish.
Okay.
Okay. David, what interested you or motivated you to reach out and incorporate more Latin or Afro-Cuban rhythms into your music?
I moved to New York in the mid-'70s, and pretty shortly after moving there, living in the Village, I noticed that there were a lot of clubs nearby that featured Latin music. One of the places I lived was right around the corner from New Yorican Village, so I'd be going to sleep with conga rhythms in my ears. It was part of the environment in New York, and it still is. So naturally, after a while, I said, hey, I'm going to check this out. I'd go to out dancing with friends at the Corso Ballroom, which no longer exists. And I'd go hear bands jam with jazz greats at the Village Gate on Monday nights. Stuff like that, where you're walking around the corner and hearing some of the best music that the city has to offer. Some of the best musicians and bands on the continent, and they're right there. So I got into the music.
What, if you had to pick out some names of that music scene, of tropical music that were involved in that music, the great ones, who would you say they were?
I was going out to hear bands, and I got into the music live before I started really buying records. And I would see Ray Barretto at the Corso and Celia Cruz at either SOBs or Village Gate, Machito, Tito Puente, Willie Colon, just amazing bands, just amazing groups. To me, this was, it's live music that swings, has an incredible groove. It's beautiful, the melodies are beautiful. It's very heartfelt. It's not about posing or making a conceptual statement or some kind of weird, perverse attitude or making a sensation in the news. It's about loving music and singing your heart out.
What about Latin music or Latin people or flair or what would you associate with what would be being Latin from your perspective? Because Latin people on their own, they would judge themselves as being, romantic, passionate, with a zest for life. What is your opinion of what Latin culture is?
For me, some of the cliches of Latin culture are true. There is a soulfulness, a lot of heart in the music and in people's lives. There's also a lot of things that maybe people don't realize. That a lot of Latins are very, very proper. There's an emphasis on being genteel, proper behavior, dressing nicely, which is kind of rare in this day and age. It's a kind of pleasant counterpoint to the passion.
Ray Momo, very heavily influenced, perhaps most of all your work most influenced by Afro-Cuban sounds and Latin rhythms. Take us back to when you called Johnny Pacheco. We interviewed Johnny Pacheco. He told us a story about how you two came to work together. Take us back to when you decided that you wanted to coordinate the best of the best and make your album, Ray Momo.
Years ago, Jonathan Demme approached me about doing a song for this movie, Something Wild. And I said, I'm a huge fan of Celia Cruz. I'd love to do a duet with her. Because he said he wanted the song to portray New York as an island. And I thought, that's great. I can write something like that. And I never dreamed that she would agree to it. And then I never dreamed again that they would pull in Johnny Pacheco to help me out. Jerry Masucci from Fania Records was helping out. It was kind of an amazing dream team, whatever. Ray Barretto was playing congas on the song. It was just amazing. And it was the first time I'd worked with any of those people. They were all very generous about working with me. There was no feeling of suspicion or what's he doing to our music or whatever. And what I was doing was not strictly, it was not strictly proper. I was mixing things up, changing things around a little bit. But I was thrilled with the way that song, Loco de Amor, worked out. Celia and I had a great time singing it. We performed it a few times here and there. And so that's just spurred me on to want to continue and work with these musicians and other Latin musicians on more projects.
Comment on the appeal that Latin music can have towards non-Latin audiences in this country. Can Latin music or Afro-Cuban rhythms cross over in a mainstream circuit? My answer is too long? No,
you want
not
me to
at
keep
all,
them, you want me to
please.
keep them shorter?
No, you can.
All right. Okay. Just whatever. At present, for the most part, there's still, I still feel a big separation between, say, the Anglo, rock, whatever music scene and the Latin music scene. Occasionally something crosses over. There was some, years ago, there was some boogaloo hits that crossed over. And before that, of course, mambos, rumbas, cha-cha-chas, everything was just huge all over New York, all over the country. But at present, there's a separation. I think that'll change. If anything, if for no other reason than that Latins represent such a large percentage of the U.S. population, and that's going to just keep growing as the years go by. And so if nothing else, money talks, and the record business, the multinationals are going to notice that, hey, Selena or whoever is selling millions of records, and we don't even know who she is. We've never heard of her, whatever, and then eventually they're going to turn their heads around. It's going to be like the Garth Brooks phenomena, where most of the record executives and writers had never listened to country music. And then when they finally, SoundScan gave an accurate reporting of what records were selling and how many they were selling, they realized that these country records are selling more than the rock records. And the same thing's going to happen with some Latin records, if not now, in the near future. And then people are going to turn around because it's hitting their pocketbooks.
What would you say is the mission of LUAKA, your record label, in terms of its spreading, trying to diffuse this music to this mainstream audience?
At LUAKA, we don't have any mission. We're not missionaries, we're not a school, we're not teachers or proselytizers or anything like that. We just, we hear music that we love that other people are maybe missing. And since we can't compete with the huge bucks for whatever, many things, we find that here's something that people are missing that is just incredible. It might be a Peruvian singer like Susana Baca, or salsa, Latin salsa, Latin ska band like King Chango. Another group we're working with is a Venezuelan group called Los Amigos Invisibles, which is kind of mixing rock and salsa and various kinds of sounds. To me, it's some of the greatest stuff that's happening at the moment.
Let's go back a little bit. Tell me, in your opinion, how important do you think Celia Cruz has been to salsa music or tropical music?
For me, Celia Cruz epitomizes a lot of what is great about Latin music. The intensity and passion in her voice, and her kind of vivacious personality and stage persona, and her choice of songs. The records are just great to listen to. They're filled with great songs.